Bye. Hi, everyone. Michelle Grimalio, the CEO here at Woodland Pond. Today is Thursday, October 29th, 2020. And we are now, I guess, 4 full days and part of another day into positive COVID cases on campus. And I wanted to give you our daily update. Again, these are available on our YouTube channel. It was recommended to me that you should, when you go to the YouTube channel, you can actually, once you get to the Woodland Pond page, you can select to subscribe to the channel. And what that will do is each time we post a new video, you'll get a notification. So you'll know as soon as the videos are ready. So you might want to subscribe to that. That's a nice tip. So let's see, where are we? We spoke yesterday at 2 o'clock, and then I issued a few updates as the evening went on. So working out of the original population of 12 residents that tested positive for COVID on a test taken last week, results came in on Sunday. We retested everyone, and yesterday 10 of the 12 results came in for those 12 positive folks. Of the 10 that came in, 9 were negative. So 1 was positive. So of the original 12 that were positive, 1 retested positive, 9 tested negative. This morning, we got results on number 11 of 12, and that was inconclusive. So that test had to be reperformed. We re-swabbed that individual today, and we are still waiting for the 12th retest. So we kind of go back into a pattern of wait and see what happens with the inconclusive test. And then as well, we are waiting for the 12th result. So we're very excited about the news, but we definitely are still, heavily into this. All 12 of those residents, as well as all residents throughout the community, both in the health center and in independent living, remain completely asymptomatic. We've had no reports of any resident from independent living with concerns of any kind of illness. And as you know, we are monitoring the vital signs of all of the health center residents every shift, both in the COVID positive unit and all of the rest of the units in the health center. And no one has any symptoms of illness or concerning vital signs. So that's where we are right now. A lot of you have asked, now what happens? So I'm going to sort of give the answer that I've given, having been asked this numerous times today and last night. So, and I'll tie it into the question that many of you have asked, which is, well, are these false positives? So what I will say is, I'm not a scientist. And I would venture to guess that even at this point in time, some of the world's best scientists would not venture a guess on that. I just don't think we have enough information. We do know that we had positive cases in asymptomatic people that are now negative. As to the why behind that, I think, and to suggest that we could figure the answer out on that, it would be speculative. We know that there are people that truly have COVID that are asymptomatic. Now, it seems unlikely in this case because we're talking about, folks that are among the most frail at the community, certainly among the oldest. Just by virtue of being in skilled nursing, it tells us that they're the most high level in terms of needs and most, likely among the most frail, as I said. So it seems unlikely that if it truly was COVID, that all of them would remain asymptomatic. However, we're only on day 7 since we performed the original tests. So we all know that the symptom onset in COVID very clearly can be somewhere between 2 and 14 days. So because we haven't had symptoms yet, does not mean that symptoms will not develop in the next 7 days. So, I don't feel comfortable concluding or even preliminarily, venturing a guess as to what is happening. The laboratory that we used is the laboratory that we've used throughout COVID. The lab that we use for resident testing is different than the lab that we use for employee testing. In both cases, we use the most reliable form of testing. And it's well documented at this point. There's articles in the New York Times. There's been recent incidents here in the Hudson Valley where a swath of positive tests come through and the residents remain asymptomatic. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, but as to the science behind it, I dare not venture a guess. And part of the reason that I'm not really driven to try to figure out what happened here, what's going on, is that we are treating this as if it's a true active risk regardless. None of our responses or reactions would be different if somebody was to come in right now and say, these were false positives. Particularly and especially because right now we still have someone that retested positive. Perhaps if all 12 retested negative, I would feel differently and my team would feel differently, but we didn't get 100% retest negative. We have 1 positive, 1 inconclusive, 1 pending, and 9 negative. So we're very much still in the wait and see phase, and monitor symptoms, take care of the residents, retest as needed, and work with the Department of Health and the other agencies to identify our next steps. There is no concrete guide path here in terms of when precautions can be released. There is different guidance depending on who you speak to. Everybody looks at this a little bit differently, both from the state epidemiology perspective, Department of Health, the CDC. Everyone looks at this a little bit differently. And particularly in our case, there's going to be a lot of discussion about when we feel comfortable with releasing or relieving any of the precautions that are in place at this time. At a minimum, we have to let the 14-day initial incubation period run out. We have to get the retests back of all of the residents, which we do not have. And until those two things have happened, we really just can't make any decisions about when the precautions will be lifted. So you're gonna have to stay tuned to my daily updates, and I will issue some written guidance and updates as well, at least once a week. I did issue a memo, I think on Monday. Today's Thursday. I'll probably issue a memo tomorrow, to just let everyone know in a written format where we are. So that's the health center. Again, just to reiterate, no staff members have tested positive in any of the retests that we've done since the weekend. We have no symptomatic staff members. We have asked that a number of staff members that were deemed to have potentially higher exposure than others are tested twice a week again until further notice. State and federal requirement right now, actually state requirement is once per week, but we did identify some staff that should be tested a couple of times a week. So we are working on that. We have made some forward progress in terms of getting access to very limited rapid testing. And we are looking at the benefits and disadvantages to utilizing what might be available to us, simply because there is a question of reliability as to the rapid tests. So generally speaking, I think the comfort level for our team is that if we were to utilize rapid testing capability that it may become available to us, or is available to us in the short term, would be to potentially perform a rapid test and then immediately follow it with a traditional test. But we're working through those details right now. Right now we have, the laboratory contract. We have asymptomatic people. Everybody's been retested this week. So we're not in a crisis to have to be able to test right this second with rapid tests or any other type of tests. We are working through our options and making sure that we're being as careful as possible. Excuse me. So independent living testing. We are still not as far along as I would like to be for wide-scale testing. However, we have identified another 25 or so residents that will be tested tomorrow morning, Friday at 8 a.m. that were deemed to have some level of potentially higher exposure based on a variety of factors. So First Care will be coming here tomorrow to perform those tests, as well as retesting a number of independent living residents that had had contact or potential contact with one of the health center positive staff members. Ultimately, what Sarah and I, our goal is that if we cannot easily access wide-scale testing for all of the independent living residents here on site, we want to at least make sure that we're getting a good portion of the residents in terms of being able to say that we've done a widely scattered sample of people that, you know, are active or stay home or symptomatic or not symptomatic, or well, we have nobody symptomatic, but potential exposure, people that don't have potential exposure. So one thing I would ask of you is, if you have for any reason had a test in the since last Wednesday, the 22nd, whether you went to the doctor's office or you had a hospital procedure and they tested you, if you have had a test at all since last Wednesday, I'd like you to contact me and let me know. You can send it to my email, or you can call me at my desk, or you can let concierge know. But I'm keeping track of all of the residents. I have a list here somewhere of all of the residents that have been tested for any reason in independent living and what the results are. Everyone that I'm aware of at this point that has been tested is negative. And my hope is that between, you know, the different types of testing that we're doing, that we are going to get a decent enough sample to say, okay, we've got a sample here, none of the sample tested positive. We continue to have completely asymptomatic residents, and to kind of go from there. So we're gonna let this weekend run through. If you have had any testing, please let me know. As I said, about 25 or so more independent living residents are going to be tested tomorrow morning. We should have those results on Sunday. We want to get the next round of employee testing through to make sure that we don't have any asymptomatic staff members that are testing positive. And then we're going to talk about when we think we might be able to safely resume limited independent living activity. At this point, we are just not committing to anything. We are not committing to dates to reopen activities and amenities here in independent living, nor in the health center. We are really very much needing to still get through at least through next Wednesday without making any changes, because that would be 2 weeks from the last time a positive symptomatic staff member was on site. So, you know, we have to be prudent with that. We are continuing to provide to all residents as many supportive services as we possibly can. If you haven't heard me list, or you haven't seen a piece of paper that says that we're doing X, Y, and Z, but you really could use it, please call. And that goes to for anybody in the health center or in independent living, or a family member of anybody or a loved one of anybody in any of our units. Please just ask. You know, we're going to try to do everything that we can. I can't possibly list all of the things that we can potentially do for you, but if you need something, have a recommendation, or have an inquiry, please pass it along, and we will literally do whatever we can to accommodate that. We're really trying to help you at this, you know, very, very challenging time. So the Department of Health came back on site today to perform another infection control survey. This is a different team than was here on Tuesday. The team that's here today is actually the team that has done our 3 prior infection control surveys, the unannounced surveys. So today was unannounced. It's the same team that's been here 3 times since COVID started, and has, you know, reaffirmed that they are very comfortable and happy with what we're doing. So they're still currently here. Our team is working with them, and typically they will stay in the building. This particular team will stay in the building normally until maybe 3:30 or 4 o'clock. So I'm going to wait to issue my update, my email update, until after the Department of Health has left. So if there is any feedback that they have for us, anything that they recommend, we will let you know that. They definitely seem to have concerns about the length of time that it's taking for our test results to come back from the lab. As we are, you know, we want these things to come back as quickly as possible, and you know, they definitely would like to see that as well. So I would expect that when they leave today, you know, they make that point, they emphasize it. We may have to consider switching labs if this lab cannot commit to, you know, turning things around as quickly as we all would like, but it hasn't been an issue in the past. I don't know if there's a backlog. We will get to the bottom of that, but that is definitely a concern that we all share. Some of you in independent living have attempted to prove me wrong in terms of the access and availability of independent living testing in this case, whether here on site or off campus. And I welcome that, because if you can figure out a way that we can get testing done, I will eat my words. And those of you that have come back have initially thought that there was going to be an option based on some information that came out from the state. And upon further investigation, you have determined that it's not an option, especially not here on site. So, I mean, yes, of course, any resident can get in their car and say they have a symptom of something and go to First Care and get a test. But we really don't want to see people going off site at this point in time when we are still within the 14-day incubation period. Excuse me, that is putting the community at large at risk unnecessarily, to rule out a virus that no one is symptomatic of, and you have not been identified as potentially having exposure. So we're still working through the details on independent living testing. Certainly anyone that becomes symptomatic or fearful of any kind of you know, questionable symptom in the next couple of days, as we approach next Wednesday, we are going to have First Care come and test you. Normally that will happen on a weekday in the morning at 8 a.m. or closely thereafter. So if you could just continue to communicate that with us, that would be great. And that'll help us get our numbers of independent living folks that were tested up a little bit. Oh, Gretchen asked me to tell you that the King and I, which is supposed to start at 3 today, actually is going to start at 2:30 because it's 2.5 hours long. And so in order for it to be done while we still have staff to stop the movie, the King and I will start as soon as I'm done here at 2:30. Yesterday, I was intending to put up the 2021 rates, and it completely went out of my mind. And then in speaking with Christy, or just, you know, thinking about the process, we both remembered that we have to do this in writing. It's required by the state law. So actually, Christy's just going to print those letters up tomorrow and deliver them to everyone. So we're going to do that in writing. It's required in writing anyway. So that'll be tomorrow. There will be programming on Channel 1340 this weekend. We're trialing a new program and working with different staff to get some programming up on 1340 on the weekend. Currently, we have entertainment style programming scheduled, newly scheduled now at 11 and 1. But we are looking at also potentially streaming some religious services, possibly not this weekend, but starting the next weekend. So stay tuned for that. And if you have any ideas on that, please contact Gretchen. She's at extension 5962, where you can get her on her email. Don't forget that Saturday night is daylight savings time, and it's fall back. So it's fall back an hour. We will make reminders of this to all of you, but the clocks change Saturday into Sunday. So just keep that in mind. Next week, Kim Colbell is off. We are, I think, planning on doing live stream programming. I'm sorry, streamed programming, but we just stay tuned to that. We'll have all these kinds of housekeeping type things will be in the Chanticleer tomorrow too. Oh, okay. Concierge has asked me to let you know that at least Monday through Friday, and it's not confirmed yet for the weekends, but at least Mondays through Fridays from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., we are going to be sending someone around to pick things up from you. All of those things should be left on your little shelves, and you should call concierge and let us know that you need something picked up. If you live in a cottage, same thing. Please contact concierge before 1 p.m. each day and let them know if you have something that needs to be picked up. We've seen too many people coming down to the desk to drop things off. We just can't have that. So please, if you could just call concierge, and then between 1 and 2 p.m. each day, we will pick up whatever you need that you leave outside of your home. A reminder that Dedrick's is closing tomorrow at noon. Dedrick's will be open to fulfill orders over the phone on Saturday, similar to what's been happening. Prescriptions will be available and be delivered to the concierge tomorrow afternoon. So if you have a prescription, that will go through that run tomorrow afternoon, but the actual storefront itself will be closed starting at noon tomorrow. Let's see. Ray and Ann Smith have asked for me to share with you that it looks like the end is probably coming for Ann. I know that a lot of you know that she has not been well, and she has so welcomed all of your love and support. At this time, their daughter Becca will be coming in from Colorado to provide support for Ann and Ray at this time. And while Ray and Ann know that everyone would like to reach out, they have asked at this time, no phone calls, no visits, no emails, and no texts. They welcome handwritten cards and notes. So if you'd like to send a message to Ann and Ray, you certainly can do so, and just call concierge and we can pick up a letter or card from you. But please, they have asked at this time, they really are just looking for quiet. So no phone calls, no visits, no texts, and no emails for Ray and Ann, and please keep them in their thoughts. They know everybody is is praying for them. Okay, last but not least on voting. So yesterday we did a final push with the endorsement of the election commissioner to have anyone that had not put in a ballot for absentee voting, an application for absentee voting. We were able to collect new applications, and we got quite a few of them, more than 20, maybe 30. Tom Turco, the election commissioner, came to Woodland Pond today to pick those applications up, as well as a big stack of absentee ballots. So that was hand delivered to the commissioner. He picked them up personally here, and we thank him for that. That's huge. I mean, that's above and beyond. He is going to take those applications, and their team is going to process the ballots. As soon as those ballots are ready, he's going to notify me, and someone from Woodland Pond, it might be me, it might be someone else, is going to go to the Board of Elections, pick up those ballots, hand deliver them to Woodland Pond, get them distributed to you. Excuse me, we will collect them back from you, and then we will hand deliver any remaining absentee ballots to the Board of Elections. Tom Turco did also mention that they can be turned in at the voting sites. So because we were able to do that, and I know that the concierge notified you of this yesterday, those folks that were signed up to do early voting, it's no longer necessary, and we are not going to be running transportation on Sunday for early voting. That being said, some of you have indicated that you will be going to vote in person, whether it be for early voting or on election day. And what I would ask of you, if you are doing that, is to please call concierge and notify us of when you are planning on going. Obviously, I can only make recommendations about the fact that we are asking people not to go off campus and potentially expose the community to a virus that we don't know how extensively it has spread. But at the same time, I know how important voting is, particularly to this population. So if you are going to go vote in person, please keep the following tips in mind. You should wear as much available personal protective equipment as you can, at least masks, and more preferably masks and either goggles or a face shield and gloves. You should 100% keep 6 feet or more from everyone that's near you. You're going to need to be prepared to wait for an extensive period of time, unless you let me know or let Lisa know, or concierge know when you're going. And the reason for that is because we do have a connection at the New Paltz polling site, that if we have a resident that is going, they may be able to expedite you to the front of the line. So we would need to know when you're planning on going, though, in order for that to be effectuated. You know, if you're feeling unwell at all, please stay away from the polling sites. When you get done with your polling, you should wash your hands, use hand sanitizer. Everyone should already be monitoring their signs and symptoms for illness and taking your temperature 2 times per day, but you especially should do so after voting or any time in the public at this point. But it seems like that issue has been largely resolved, so we're excited about that. As always, you know how to get in touch with me. Please check in with your neighbors, call your friends and your family. Let us know if there's anything at all that we can do for you, and please take care. Thank you.